Okay, we're getting there. We're almost at the end of the second slide deck, which means we're almost at the end of the week 3 material. Okay, we're going to talk about unit rates. And I know you've gone through a couple of slides to get to this point, but just to recap, before we talk about unit rates, let's talk about what a rate is, just a little review. So a rate is a comparison of quantities, so of two things, quantities, the fancy word for saying of two things that have different units. Okay. And the most common one that we're all familiar with is kilometers per hour, right? So you're comparing kilometers per hour, right? And you say, I'm out on the highway and I'm doing 110 kilometers per hour. And you're very familiar with that, okay? Sometimes it'll be meters per second. Okay? So a rate, you could say, well, I was out on the highway and I went 240 kilometers in 3 hours. That's a rate. You would never say, I went 240 kilometers in 3 hours, though, would you? You'd say, well, I went 80 kilometers in 1 hour. That's what you'd normally say. And what I just did is showed you what a unit rate is. A unit rate compares two quantities that are different, like kilometers and hours, but the second one always is like 1 hour, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 kilogram, whatever. The second one's always 1, and that's why it's called a unit rate, right? So it's the number of something per 1 unit, okay? Maybe it's per pound, okay? If those of you into cars and tire pressure, you have pounds per square inch, right? So you say pump up your bike tire to 50 pounds per square inch, 50 psi, okay? And it's, pounds per square inch, kilometers per hour. We use this kind of slanted division sign to represent it, right? So the one we're looking at here is cost, per lab coat, $15 per lab coat is what we're looking at, okay? So a unit rate is always a comparison of some unit divided by one of another unit, okay? And I'll try and make that make sense, right? So it's a comparison, and we'll use time, okay? Again, for speed. Let's say you're going 60 kilometers per 1 hour. Or the question that we have here with the lab coats, right? We said it's $105 per 7. Is it 7? It's 7, yeah, per 7 lab coats. Now a unit rate wants to know how much it is per lab coat, per 1 lab coat, right? So my dollars is compared to my lab coats. Well, to get from 7 lab coats to 1 lab coat, and we don't ever need to show the one, okay, but we can. To get from 7 lab coats to 1 lab coat, we had to divide by 7, right? So here we had to divide by 7. That's how we got there. Which means on this side, we'd have to divide by 7. And if we divide it by 7, well, 105 divided by 7 is $15. So we'd have $15 per 1 lab coat, right? And that's really what unit rates are, okay? Now, in rates, you can have decimal places. It's not like ratios. It may be one, what's a good one? Oh, here's a good one. You might have $1.89 per butter tart. I like butter tarts, so that's why I picked them, right? So it's per one butter tart, you have the price. That is a unit rate, right? $1.89. There is a decimal place, and that's totally fine. You see that very commonly in the grocery store. Okay? Unit rates.